Have you ever wondered how over 100 million metal albums filled with lyrics about death, war, and anti-religion have been sold around the world? From bands that glorify destruction and chaos to those tied to real-life crime scenes and courtroom trials. Here are 25 most evil heavy metal bands of all time. 1. Mayhem. This is not just any band. They are one of the darkest and most disturbing bands in heavy metal history. This group from Norway did things that even shocked other black metal fans. Their story is not just about music. It's about death, pain, and real-life horror. The band became known not just for their sound, but for the sick things that happened around them. Their singer, who called himself Dead, was strange. He wore old clothes, buried them, and dug them back up to wear on stage. He wanted to smell like a corpse. He hurt himself during shows and acted like death was something to love. But then he took his own life in a horrible way. He used a shotgun and left behind a note that said, "Excuse all the blood." That wasn't the end. Their guitarist, Euronymous, found the body, and instead of calling for help, he took pictures. One of those photos was later used as an album cover. That's not art, that's sickness. The horror didn't stop there. Varg Vikernes, another band member, stabbed Euronymous to death. That was the final straw. Mayhem wasn't just dark music anymore. They were death and violence come to life. On stage, they used pig heads on sticks. They covered themselves in blood. They hurt themselves with knives while playing. This wasn't just music, it was chaos. Pain and death became the main show. 2. Gorgoroth. This next one is another band that did more than make music. They went out of their way to shock and upset people. Coming from Norway like Mayhem, they wanted to push every limit. Their shows looked more like horror movies than concerts. In 2004, they played in Poland. That show became one of the most talked about concerts in metal history. Why? Because they turned the stage into something sick. Animal heads were placed on sticks. People were tied to crosses. There was blood, fire, and sounds that made the place feel like a nightmare. People were scared. Some were angry. Police got involved, and the band was taken to court. But Gorgoroth didn't stop. They kept going. They wanted to be hated. That was part of the act. Their music is full of hate against religion. Their songs talk about burning churches and attacking holy beliefs. Some fans called it brave. Others called it evil. The band didn't seem to care what people thought. In fact, the more people got upset, the more Gorgoroth seemed to like it. Their message was clear. They didn't want peace. They wanted war. They used hate like fuel, and it worked. People talked about them not just for the music, but for the fear they caused. 3. Deicide. Directly from the US, they didn't try to hide their hate. They wore it on their skin. Their singer, Glenn Benton, burned an upside-down cross into his forehead. That wasn't a costume. It was real. He showed the world exactly how far he'd go to attack religion. His band's name even means eliminating God. Their lyrics are angry, loud, and full of rage at faith. Some people say it's just music. But when a man marks himself forever with hate, it's not just a song, it's a war cry. Deicide didn't care who they offended. They made songs about elimination angels, burning churches, and mocking people's beliefs. And when the press came calling, they didn't deny it. They welcomed the anger. Glenn Benton said many awful things in interviews. He talked about hating religion and wanting to hurt people who believe. That kind of talk got them banned in some places. Their shows were canceled. Stores refused to sell their albums, but they didn't stop. They kept screaming, kept making people mad. Benton even said he'd take his own life at a certain age just to prove a point. He didn't follow through, but the threat made headlines. It added to the fear. People didn't know what was real and what was an act. That's the thing with Deicide. They blurred the line. They made people wonder, is this still music or is it something darker? And that question is what kept people listening. 4. Behemoth. This Polish band doesn't play it safe. They attack beliefs, rip apart symbols, and light fires on stage. Their singer, Nergal, ripped a Bible during a show. That act alone sent him to court. In Poland, where faith is strong, this was a big deal. Some said it was his right. Others said it was a crime. Behemoth didn't apologize. They stood tall. Their videos show burning crosses and masked figures. Their lyrics speak of breaking rules, of tearing down gods. This isn't just rebellion, it's war through sound. Nergal says he wants people to think, but the way he does it feels more like a slap than a question. The band covers themselves in blood, paint, and symbols. Their shows feel more like attacks than entertainment. Fans cheer, but critics shout back. The battle plays out in the news. Some cities try to stop them. Some people beg for bans. But Behemoth keeps going. They don't care if you hate them. They expect it. They use it. Every insult becomes a badge of pride. Behemoth wants to be feared. And they've done a good job. This is not music to relax to. This is music to fight to. And they never back down. 5. Morbid Angel. This American band didn't just sing about death. They sang about ancient gods, dark powers, and things people were afraid to even think about. Their 1993 album, Covenant, was a big moment in metal history. It came out with the help of a major label. That meant this dark, heavy music was now in big stores, on big stages. People who had never heard of death metal suddenly knew their name. But this wasn't light music. It was loud, heavy, and full of evil themes. Their songs talk about demons, rituals, and the fall of heaven. Their shows use smoke, fire, and blinding lights. They look like a place where old gods wake up. Their guitar playing is fast and wild. Their voices growl like monsters. It doesn't sound human. That's the point. They want people to feel like they've left the real world and stepped into something dark. Fans love it. Others are scared by it. Morbid Angel made death metal big, but they didn't make it easy to like. They challenged people. They forced them to listen to words about destruction, about the end, and they didn't smile while doing it. That's why they still stand out today. 6. Watain. These guys don't just play songs. They create a full show that feels like a dark ritual. Coming from Sweden, they mix black metal with shocking actions. They use real animal blood on stage. They light fires. They chant strange words. This isn't just for looks. They believe in what they're doing. That makes it scarier. It's not fake. It's faith. A dark, loud kind of faith. When you go to their concerts, you don't just hear music. You smell blood. You see fire. You feel heat. You wonder if something bad is about to happen. They've said they want their concerts to feel like a ceremony, not a fun one, a serious one. One where people leave changed. Some do. Some walk away and never come back. But others love it. They say it feels real, powerful, like waking up in a nightmare and liking it. Watain knows how to control a crowd. They build fear. They grow it. Then they set it on fire. The band wears dark clothes and paint. They look like they came from another world. Maybe they want people to think that. They don't want to be like other bands. They want to be remembered, and they are. For better or worse, Watain is one of the darkest shows you'll ever see. 7. Natafrost. This is the solo act created by Roger Rasmussen from Norway, and it's far from friendly music. His songs are not soft or easy to listen to. They feel like ice, anger, and hate, all packed into a loud scream. He doesn't try to make music that sounds clean or smooth. Everything about Natafrost is sharp and cold, like a blade in the dark. From the very first note, you feel like you're being pulled into something unsafe. And maybe that's the point. But why would anyone want to feel like that? The name Natafrost means night frost in Norwegian. Just hearing it makes you think of something cold and lifeless. That's exactly how his music sounds. Cold, cruel, and without hope. He sings about hating people, about chaos, and about enjoying pain. This isn't just music to him. It feels like he wants to hurt, to shock, to make sure you never forget the noise. Fans call it real, raw, and powerful. But what if it's not just about being real? What if it's about dragging others into darkness? Every part of this act, the music, the words, even the way it looks, is made to shock. The themes don't talk about joy, love, or peace. They talk about death, hate, and everything people fear. Some fans say it helps them feel strong. But what kind of strength grows from songs full of anger? That's the question Natafrost leaves hanging in the air. 8. Electric Hellfire Club. They don't just want to play music, they want to burn every rule to the ground. They come from the United States, but their message has no home. Their songs talk about crime, evil, and things many people try to forget. They mix metal and electronic music, but it's not about sound. It's about sending a message. That message is loud, dark, and full of disrespect for anything sacred. Every beat feels like it was made to make people angry, to shake their beliefs. But why shake beliefs just for fun? The leader of this band is Thomas Thorne. He once stood with the Church of Satan. That says a lot about what this band stands for. He didn't just believe it. He gave a speech at Anton LaVey's funeral, the founder of the Church of Satan. It wasn't a quiet goodbye. It was a public moment of praise. He showed no fear in standing by what many call evil. Was it bravery or just another way to get attention? This band keeps throwing fuel on the fire. Their songs make fun of religion, twist symbols, and use dark images to get people talking. But talking about what? Do they want change, or do they just want to break things? Their work shocks people. But after the shock wears off, what's left? Music should make us feel something true, but this feels like it only wants to leave scars. 9. Stalag. Some might say they aren't a band at all. What they make doesn't sound like music. It sounds like pain. It sounds like fear. It sounds like something from the worst part of a nightmare. This group comes from the Netherlands and is known for using screams, real, raw screams, from people suffering deep emotional pain. These are not fake sounds. These are real cries from real people. That's where things get dark. Stalag recorded people from mental hospitals, people with heavy trauma, and used their screams as instruments. These were not volunteers making music. They were people in deep pain. Using those screams feels like crossing a line. Can pain be used like that for music? Or is it just stealing suffering to shock others? The name Stalag is also chosen on purpose. Stalag was the name for Nazi camps during World War II. The extra GH stands for Global Holocaust. This is not a small or soft message. It's screaming violence from the start. The group wants to remind you of horror, war, and death. They're not hiding anything. They want you to feel scared, hurt, and helpless. That's the goal. But should that even be a goal in music? They don't use melody or rhythm. They use pain. And they do it over and over again. Some people say it helps them face their own fears. Others say it's just sick. The line between bravery and cruelty is thin. Stalag dances right on that line, daring someone to stop them. 10. Disgorge. Mexico. From Mexico, they are loud, violent, and don't care what anyone thinks. Their music hits like a hammer. Every note feels like a scream. Their lyrics are full of blood, guts, and death. They don't sing about love or hope. They sing about ripping flesh, crushing bones, and darkness that never ends. Their songs don't hide anything. They show you horror straight in the face, but why turn music into something so ugly? Their album covers show things many people wouldn't want to see. Bodies torn apart, faces twisted in pain. It's not just a theme, it's their whole style. They don't want to be soft or quiet. They want to be the loudest, scariest thing in the room. But when you make everything so extreme, what message do you leave behind? Some say it's art, others say it's trash. Disgorge doesn't explain much. They just keep making noise. Noise full of violence and fear. Maybe it's how they express rage. Maybe it's just for shock. 11. Cannibal Corpse. Cannibal Corpse is one of the most well-known death metal bands, but also one of the most feared. Since 1988, they've made music about eliminations, hurting, and terrible things people barely dare to think about. Their album covers are banned in some countries, like Germany and Australia. Their concerts have been stopped. Why? Because what they sing and show is too much, too graphic, too dark. But they keep going, and people keep listening. Their songs don't just talk about horror, they describe it in detail. Torture, mutilation, cannibalism. There's no poetry, no hidden meaning. It's all right there, bloody and loud. Some say it's like watching a scary movie. But even horror films have rules. Cannibal Corpse seems to want to break every one of them. Their fans defend them. They say it's just art, that it's not real. But should art make people feel sick? Should it be about tearing people apart? There's a difference between shocking people and scarring them. And this band often seems like it's aiming for scars. 12. Grand Belial's Key. They make hate sound like a song. This American black metal band doesn't try to hide what they believe. Their lyrics and symbols support racist, violent views. They're tied to the National Socialist black metal scene, a group that connects to Nazi ideas. That's not just disturbing, it's dangerous. Music can bring people together, but this kind of music is made to divide. They use dark symbols, they use harsh words, they aim their anger at people, real groups of people, not just in songs, but in everything they do. They've been banned from clubs and concerts. Other bands refuse to play with them. Why? Because hate is not art. Hate is not music. It's something that spreads hurt, not sound. The band says it's just their belief, but beliefs have power. And when those beliefs push others down, they need to be questioned. Their fans say it's just rebellion. But rebellion against what? Kindness? Respect? Peace? 13. Argoslent. This band began in Virginia in 1990, but their music was never just about sound. Right from the start, they brought more than guitar riffs and fast drums. Their lyrics were what caught people's attention, and not in a good way. People noticed racist words and ideas hidden in their songs, and those messages were not easy to ignore. Over time, it became clear they were using music to spread dangerous thinking, not just to entertain. Some fans tried to defend it as just art, but many others saw the truth. These weren't just songs. They were songs with hate. Can music go too far? That's the question people asked when they heard Argoslent. It wasn't about being loud or scary. It was about the ugly thoughts hiding in the lyrics. As word spread, the band started to get banned from music platforms. Their albums vanished from stores and playlists. People didn't want to support music that sounded like racism. And who could blame them? Even with the backlash, the band never apologized. They didn't try to change their style or their words. That made things worse. It told people that maybe they meant every line. This wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. And it was a choice many couldn't stand behind. The real danger isn't just what they played, it's how many people they might have reached with that message. 14. Holocausto. This next band formed in Brazil in 1985, and from the very beginning, they were ready to shock. Their debut album, Campo de Exterminio, didn't hold back. It showed images and told stories about Nazi death camps. The band said it was about history, about showing the pain and horror. But most people didn't feel informed. They felt sick. The music didn't teach, it scared. It didn't help people remember. It made people wonder if the band had gone too far. Can you really claim it's just history when you're turning horror into soundtracks? That's what critics kept asking. The album looked more like it admired violence instead of warning against it. It didn't seem thoughtful or careful. It felt like the band was using pain to get attention. And it worked, in the worst way. People were talking, but not in praise. They were angry, upset, and disgusted. Holocausto didn't fix things. They didn't try to explain better or walk away from the style. They stood by what they made. Some said they were brave. Others said they were blind to how much they hurt people. Music about the Holocaust needs care, respect, and truth. This album felt more like a cruel show than a history lesson. It crossed a line most wouldn't dare touch. 15. Murder Junkies. They made noise for chaos. Tied to G.G. Allin, a man known for doing things most people wouldn't even think about, the band became known for acts that shocked and scared crowds. They didn't just play loud music. They broke things. They hurt themselves. They even threw waste at the audience. These weren't concerts. They were wild, dangerous shows where anything could happen, and often did. Why did people keep watching? That's the question. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the thrill of fear. But what were they really supporting? Was it music or mayhem? The Murder Junkies didn't just cross lines. They didn't believe in having any. They made pain into performance. They made sickness into style. And somehow, they still found fans. Even in the world of heavy metal, where dark themes are common, this band stood apart, but not in a good way. They didn't sing about hard topics to help people think. They didn't create stories to make people feel. They just wanted to shock. But when the shock wears off, what's left? Just fear, sadness, and a mess no one wants to clean up. 16. Rammstein. Rammstein is one of the most famous bands from Germany, known for fire, loud music, and huge shows. Their concerts look like a movie, with lights, costumes, and flames. But behind the show, there's something darker. Their lyrics talk about pain, power, and things many people find upsetting. They bring up war, control, and even disturbing behavior. Some fans say it's just art. Others say it's way too much. Can a band go too far if their shows look amazing? That's what people ask every time Rammstein takes the stage. The music makes people dance, but the words make them stop and think, or cringe. Are they trying to make a point, or just trying to see how far they can go? The line between smart and shocking gets thinner with each album. Rammstein doesn't explain much. They let people guess what it all means. But that guessing game has caused real problems. Some songs were banned, some videos were blocked, and still they keep going, louder and stranger than before. They like the shock. They like the fire. 17. Volon. They bring more than just heavy guitars. They bring fear, worry, and anger with them. Some of their concerts included animal blood, real blood. That alone made people walk away. But there's more. Rumors say the band has ties to hateful beliefs. Nothing is proven, but people are still upset. The feeling around them is not just about music. It's about what they stand for, or what people think they might. Should a band be welcome if they scare the crowd? That's what venues began to ask. One by one, stages closed their doors. The band lost places to play. Fans were divided. Some still cheered. Others spoke out. And that noise, from fans and critics, grew louder than the music. Volon could clear the air, but they haven't. They haven't explained. They haven't said what they believe. That silence leaves a big hole filled with fear and anger. It lets hate sneak in. Even if they never said the words, the things around them say enough. Animal blood on stage, links to violent groups. That's not just performance. That's a message, and not a good one. 18. Drudk. These guys come from Ukraine. Their sound is slow, dark, and powerful. Many people say the music is deep and beautiful, but the words behind it? Those raise red flags. The band never talks much. They don't do interviews. They don't explain their songs. That silence has made people wonder. Some of their music talks about old battles, pride in the past, and national power. It sounds like more than just songs. It sounds like something political. Is pride in your country always a good thing? Not when it leaves others out. Some people believe Drudk songs push ideas that split people apart. They talk about history in a way that seems more about lifting one group and forgetting the rest. Even without saying it out loud, their message feels strong, and it worries people. 19. St. Vitus. If you want entertainment, you better look somewhere else. They came to drag you down with them. Their music didn't bounce or move fast. It crawled like a heavy fog, swallowing everything in its path. The slow guitar riffs felt like the earth cracking open under your feet. It was dark, cold, and lifeless. From the late 1970s, they were already building a sound no one else dared to touch. This wasn't about making people dance. This was about showing how far sadness could go when there was no light left. Every note felt like a weight being dropped onto your chest. Their lyrics didn't scream about gore or shock. Instead, they whispered despair so deeply that it sat in your bones. There was no comfort in their music, only more darkness waiting around every corner. They weren't wild on stage, and they didn't use fire or face paint. What made them scary was how real they sounded. It was like they had lived every word they sang, and maybe they had. Their sound was so heavy, so slow, it made everything else feel fake. Other bands shouted. St. Vitus simply showed the world crumbling, one song at a time. You didn't leave their shows excited, you left shaken. They didn't need to talk about evil, they made you feel it. That's why some say they were more dangerous than louder, faster bands. They didn't make noise, they made you sit still and face the worst parts of your mind. 20. Lamb of God. When these guys showed up, they didn't show up to play games. Their sound hit like a hammer, fast and unforgiving. But under all that noise was something much worse. This wasn't just yelling or loud guitars. This was a band digging into wounds most people try to hide. Their music wasn't fun, it was raw pain, and they wanted you to feel every second of it. How much truth can you handle before it breaks you? Lamb of God dared to ask. Their songs weren't random rage. They were stories of real struggle, personal destruction, and endless inner battles. They used metal not to escape pain, but to show it. Their album Sacrament wasn't just music. It was a mirror of addiction, failure, and guilt. The kind of guilt that doesn't go away. The kind that eats you alive. 21. Carcass. This next band didn't want to make music that felt nice. They wanted to disturb. They took death and made it the main act. Not in a poetic way, but in a way that felt like a medical lesson gone wrong. Their early albums were filled with words no normal person would say out loud. Words pulled from biology books, morgue reports, and surgical records. Why say pain when you can list every part of a body that breaks? That was Carcass's way. They invented gore grind, a metal subgenre that didn't just flirt with horror, it married it. Their guitars buzzed like bone saws. Their lyrics painted pictures of decay that stayed in your head long after the song ended. This wasn't music anymore. This was surgery, and you were the patient. They didn't care if it made people leave. In fact, they probably liked that. Their goal wasn't fame. It was impact. What kind of band makes you gag and keeps going? That was Carcass. They didn't soften, they didn't explain, they just kept pushing. Their album art was as shocking as the songs themselves, showing body parts, blood, and sickness. It wasn't fantasy, it was too real. 22. Torso Fuck. This Finnish death metal band wasn't just violent, they were disgusting. Their name alone turned stomachs, and that was only the beginning. Their songs didn't suggest horror, they screamed it in every lyric. Their words were soaked in blood, pain, and worse. And unlike others, they didn't pretend it was all metaphor. What do you call music that sounds like a crime scene? You call it torso fuck. Their lyrics painted horrible acts with shocking detail, not hidden, not symbolic, just plain, raw brutality. Their album art made stores refuse to sell their music. That didn't stop them. If anything, it made them louder. They thrived on being banned, hated, and ignored by the mainstream. What happens when a band doesn't care who hates them? Torso Fuck kept going. They didn't chase fame, they chased extremes. Their songs often dealt with subjects that crossed moral lines. Not everyone wants to hear about violence that feels too real, but that's all they offered, and some fans loved them for it. That's the scariest part. 23. Bloodbath. These guys had talent, but they used it to build something sick. Their songs didn't just talk about death, they stepped into it. Eaten wasn't a horror story. It was based on a real man who wanted to die and be eaten. Not a myth, a real event. And Bloodbath made a song about it. What kind of band turns a crime into a chorus? Bloodbath did. They didn't hide the details. They embraced them. Every note, every scream made you relive that horror. Their music was fast and brutal, but what really stuck was the content. These weren't just dark songs. They were disturbing windows into the worst parts of human nature. Can music go too far just by telling the truth? Bloodbath forced that question. They didn't invent violence in music, but they sure made it louder. Eaten wasn't just one song. It became a symbol of how far metal could go, and how far it should go. The band didn't give a warning. They gave you facts and dared you to look away. 24. Dark Throne. This band wasn't here to be liked. They were here to destroy comfort. They made black metal sound like it came from a frozen cave full of rage. Their sound was rough, unfinished, and ugly, and they liked it that way. Their most known album, A Blaze in the Northern Sky, didn't sound clean. It sounded broken, like a scream into a void. Can ugly music carry more power than perfect notes? For Dark Throne, yes. They used that power to attack religion, order, and peace. Their songs pushed back hard against anything normal. They didn't want to fit in. They wanted to burn bridges. Every track was a middle finger to society. Their lyrics didn't hint, they declared. Anti-religion wasn't a side theme. It was the whole message. What happens when music becomes a weapon? You get Dark Throne. They didn't perform. They protested. Their shows felt like war zones, full of fire, noise, and anger. 25. Dissection. They were real, and that made them worse. Their frontman, John Nodvite, didn't just talk darkness. He lived it. He was convicted for helping in a brutal crime. When he got out, he went back to the band like nothing happened. That coldness made people uncomfortable. Can you listen to someone who's done the worst and come back smiling? Dissection dared you to. Their music was sharp, fast, and full of hate. It wasn't just sound. It was rage-wearing armor. They mixed black metal with melody, making it strangely catchy and cold at once. John didn't hide his past. He leaned into it. He made his life part of the art. What happens when horror becomes your brand? Dissection showed us. Then, as if the music wasn't enough, John ended his life in a planned ritual. Not an accident, a ritual. That turned the band from scary to infamous.